In May 1941, the Bismarck, the pride of the Kriegsmarine, prepared to sortie into the North Atlantic. Germany's high command viewed the vessel as a symbol of naval power and prestige, intended to disrupt Allied shipping lanes and assert dominance in the Atlantic. Admiral Erich Rieder, head of the Kriegsmarine, briefed Hitler and senior naval officers, emphasizing the ship's strategic importance. The Bismarck must demonstrate the might of the Reich at sea, Rieder declared. Its success will inspire confidence and challenge British naval supremacy. The Bismarck, accompanied by the heavy cruiser Prince Eugen, departed from Gotenhafen on May 18, 1941 under strict secrecy. Captain Ernst Lindemann commanded the battleship with precision, while Admiral Johannes Lindemann oversaw strategic coordination. German High Command anticipated a rapid and devastating impact on Allied convoys, particularly those supplying Britain with vital resources. The plan, Operation Reinübung, aimed to disrupt supply lines while avoiding direct confrontation with the main British fleet unless advantageous. German intelligence reported that the Royal Navy's capacity in the Atlantic was stretched thin, creating an opportunity for the Bismarck to strike decisively. Hitler's confidence in the Kriegsmarine's capabilities was high. Rieder assured the Führer that the Bismarck, with its speed, armor, and firepower, could evade detection and engage British shipping effectively. Generals and admirals recorded their anticipation and expectations, fully aware that the mission carried both prestige and enormous risk. On May 21, 1941, the Bismarck engaged the British battlecruiser HMS Hood and the battleship HMS Prince of Wales in the Denmark Strait. The ensuing battle shocked the world. Hood, pride of the Royal Navy, exploded after a direct hit from Bismarck's guns, sinking within minutes and claiming the lives of 1,415 sailors. The Prince of Wales was heavily damaged but managed to retreat. German High Command in Berlin received initial reports with a mixture of triumph and cautious concern. Rieder and Hitler were briefed on the destruction of Hood, yet anxieties remained regarding the possibility of British retaliation. The sinking of Hood marked the beginning of an intense three-day pursuit. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill ordered the Royal Navy to hunt down the Bismarck at all costs. The mission quickly became a priority, involving battleships, cruisers, and aircraft from multiple naval bases. German High Command, while initially elated by the Hood's destruction, understood the grave risk posed by the concentrated Royal Navy response. Reports from the fleet indicated that Bismarck had sustained minor damage during the engagement, including hits to fuel tanks and fire control systems. Hitler's reaction was a complex mix of pride and apprehension. He congratulated the crew via intercepted communications but urged caution: do not underestimate the British. They will pursue relentlessly. The Bismarck's survival is paramount. Generals and naval officers expressed confidence in the ship's ability to evade, yet intelligence assessments revealed the growing threat of encirclement by superior British forces. The Royal Navy mobilized aircraft from HMS Ark Royal, whose Fairey Swordfish torpedo bombers engaged Bismarck on May 26, inflicting damage to the rudder. German High Command received reports of impaired maneuverability with disbelief and mounting alarm. Admiral Rieder noted in his diary, "The British are relentless, they adapt quickly. Our assumptions of freedom of action are challenged." Hitler, frustrated by the vulnerability of the fleet's flagship, demanded frequent updates, his temper escalating as damage reports arrived. Throughout May 24-26, the Bismarck was pursued across the North Atlantic. German generals and naval officers exchanged urgent communications, analyzing reconnaissance, plotting interception points, and calculating engagement strategies. Radio reports from the ship conveyed both determination and the growing strain on crew and machinery. Captain Lindemann's command style and the resilience of the crew were praised, but operational concerns mounted as British forces closed in. By May 26, reconnaissance reports confirmed that the Bismarck's rudder had been damaged, severely limiting its maneuverability. German High Command was stunned. The ship, considered nearly invincible, was now vulnerable. Rieder, Kesselring, and other senior officers deliberated on options, including aerial support from the Luftwaffe, though the distance rendered it impractical. Halder and other generals documented the unprecedented nature of the crisis. The pride of the fleet, caught and damaged, faces annihilation. The British have turned determination into tactical effectiveness. Meanwhile, Churchill maintained unwavering resolve. He coordinated naval assets across the Atlantic, instructing commanders to prioritize the sinking of the Bismarck. Civilians in Britain followed the unfolding drama with intense interest, newspapers reporting every engagement and development. British intelligence and naval command ensured that pursuit operations were continuously updated, exploiting every opportunity to trap the battleship. German High Command, confronted with the deteriorating situation, exhibited a mixture of disbelief, pride, and frustration. Hitler expressed anger at the perceived overreach of the British Navy, while readers sought to balance optimism with realistic assessments. Orders were sent to Kriegsmarine units in nearby ports to prepare for potential rescue or counteraction, though options were limited. Officers' diaries recorded the psychological impact of seeing one of Germany's most powerful symbols of naval pride imperiled by relentless enemy action. By May 27, 1941, the Royal Navy engaged Bismarck decisively with battleships HMS King George V and HMS Rodney, supported by aircraft. The ensuing battle inflicted catastrophic damage. German High Command monitored communications, receiving fragmented reports of gunfire, flooding, and crew casualties. Hitler's frustration and disbelief intensified as confirmations arrived that the Bismarck was sinking, despite heroic efforts from its captain and crew. Reeder ordered that no ships be risked for rescue, acknowledging the futility of reinforcement against overwhelming British strength. The loss of Bismarck sent shockwaves through the German High Command. Officers struggled to reconcile the destruction of a near-invincible warship within 3 days of engagement. Communications reflected both admiration for the crew's bravery and disbelief at the rapidity of the loss. Generals noted in diaries that the sinking represented not only a tactical defeat, but a symbolic blow to German naval prestige, altering the strategic calculus for the Atlantic theater. On May 24, 1941, the British Royal Navy intensified its pursuit of the Bismarck across the North Atlantic. German High Command in Berlin monitored the situation with mounting anxiety. Reports from the fleet indicated that Bismarck, while still operational, had sustained damage to fuel systems and minor structural components during initial engagements with the HMS Hood and HMS Prince of Wales. Admiral Erich Reeder and senior officers, including Admiral Gunther Lütjens, assessed the reports with disbelief, realizing the pursuit would not relent. Communications between Bismarck and German High Command were tense and fragmented. Captain Ernst Lindemann relayed that the crew remained determined, yet damage to the ship's steering and fuel storage limited tactical options. German generals recorded in diaries their astonishment that the British Navy could coordinate such a rapid and overwhelming response. Our pride of the fleet faces relentless pursuit, Halder noted. The enemy demonstrates operational coordination unmatched in previous engagements. On May 25, aircraft from HMS Ark Royal located Bismarck, launching torpedo attacks that inflicted critical damage to the rudder. German High Command received fragmented intelligence of the strikes, confirming partial immobilization. Admiral Lütjens' calm demeanor belied the gravity of the situation. Reeder and Hitler in Berlin were increasingly alarmed, with Hitler expressing frustration over the vulnerability of a vessel considered nearly invincible. Officers communicated rapidly, analyzing British ship positions and plotting potential escape routes, but options were severely limited. Meanwhile, British coordination was meticulous. Prime Minister Winston Churchill emphasized the imperative of sinking Bismarck at all costs, declaring, "Sink the Bismarck whatever the cost, and let every ship, plane, and sailor contribute to this victory." Royal Navy commanders, including Admiral Sir John Tovey, orchestrated a blockade that restricted escape to the Atlantic, ensuring that Bismarck could not retreat or resupply. German High Command debated possible countermeasures. Reeder considered deploying Luftwaffe units for reconnaissance or air attack, but distance and operational limitations rendered this impractical. Discussions emphasized the desperation of the situation. The pride of the Kriegsmarine, designed to dominate the Atlantic, was now the hunted. Officers documented a mixture of awe at the British operational efficiency and concern for strategic consequences. Throughout May 25-26, Bismarck maneuvered as best as possible under damage constraints. Reports indicated the crew maintained discipline, repairing minor systems and conserving ammunition, yet the loss of rudder control limited evasion. German High Command received continuous updates, each report heightening tension and disbelief. Halder's diary entry reflected the psychological toll. The Bismarck, symbol of our naval power, is ensnared. Its resilience is commendable, yet the enemy's persistence is extraordinary. In London, Churchill's leadership inspired both military and civilian audiences. Newspapers chronicled the hunt, radio broadcasts provided real-time updates, and public morale surged. Civilians and naval personnel alike recognized the historical significance of the engagement. For the Royal Navy, the operation had become a test of strategic coordination, technological application, and determination. By May 27, the Bismarck was intercepted decisively by HMS King George V and HMS Rodney, supported by aircraft. German High Command received initial reports via encrypted communications, confirming catastrophic damage to hull and weaponry. Captain Lindemann and Admiral Lütjens communicated with Berlin, describing efforts to maintain ship integrity and crew survival, yet the inevitability of sinking became apparent. Reader expressed shock and frustration. A ship conceived as invincible faces destruction in 3 days. Our calculations underestimated British resolve and coordination. Hitler's reaction oscillated between disbelief and fury. In meetings with Reader and other senior officers, he demanded updates and considered retaliatory measures, yet operational constraints limited options. Diaries and communications reflected a mixture of admiration for the crew's discipline and astonishment at the rapidity of the ship's destruction. Generals emphasized that Bismarck's loss had both strategic and symbolic implications, undermining morale and challenging assumptions about German naval dominance. The psychological impact on the Kriegsmarine was significant. Officers and sailors recognized that even the most formidable ship could be neutralized through coordinated pursuit and persistent engagement. Readers' post-battle assessments highlighted the operational lessons. Air reconnaissance, rapid communication, and numerical superiority had proven decisive. German generals documented that the engagement demonstrated the limitations of singular naval power when faced with integrated strategic opposition. As Bismarck sank, reports of crew heroism and discipline filtered back to Germany. Lütjens and Lindemann were posthumously praised for leadership and composure under fire. German High Command, while mourning the loss, also faced stark strategic realizations. The Kriegsmarine could no longer rely solely on battleship power to challenge British supremacy in the Atlantic. Hitler's frustration intensified as he understood that symbolic losses had operational consequences that would reshape naval planning. The aftermath reverberated through Berlin. High Command convened to analyze the failure, evaluate tactical shortcomings, and reassess Atlantic strategies. Generals and admirals debated whether future deployments should emphasize combined arms, coordination with Luftwaffe units, and avoidance of direct engagement without support. The sinking of Bismarck became a case study in both operational vulnerability and the psychological effects of British determination. On May 27, 1941, the Bismarck faced its final hours. German High Command in Berlin monitored reports with escalating tension. Communications from Admiral Lütjens conveyed that the battleship had sustained irreparable damage to its hull, weaponry, and rudder. Crew morale remained steadfast, but the operational reality was grim. Hitler and Admiral Reeder received updates, their disbelief evident as they struggled to reconcile the loss of the Kriegsmarine's pride within 3 days of engagement. Captain Ernst Lindemann, despite overwhelming odds, maintained discipline and coordinated defensive efforts. Reports highlighted the crew's bravery in manning damaged guns, repairing sections of the ship, and ensuring as many personnel as possible were evacuated. German High Command documented the extraordinary courage displayed, juxtaposed against the tactical inevitability of defeat. Diaries of generals, including Franz Halder, reflected astonishment. Never has a vessel deemed nearly invincible succumbed so quickly to a coordinated pursuit. The efficiency and resolve of the British fleet are extraordinary. The Royal Navy, under Admiral Sir John Tovey, executed the final engagement with precision. HMS King George V and HMS Rodney closed the distance, unleashing concentrated fire. Aircraft from HMS Ark Royal supplemented the attack with torpedo strikes. The Bismarck, unable to maneuver due to rudder damage, absorbed heavy shell fire and explosions. German High Command monitored every report in disbelief, struggling to grasp how the pride of the fleet had been neutralized so swiftly. Admiral Reeder convened urgent meetings with Kriegsmarine officers. Discussions centered on lessons learned, strategic implications, and potential morale effects on the Navy. Hitler, informed continuously, oscillated between outrage and disbelief. Records indicate he demanded analysis of tactical errors and considered potential retaliation against British shipping, yet the immediate operational situation left no room for direct counteraction. Berlin's High Command reflected on the symbolic blow. The loss of the Bismarck undermined both pride and perceived naval dominance. Officers, while praising the crew's valor, acknowledged that the event represented a pivotal moment in the Atlantic theater. The destruction of our flagship within 3 days is unprecedented, Halder wrote. It challenges assumptions regarding naval supremacy and requires reassessment of strategy. Meanwhile, the British public celebrated the triumph, and Churchill's leadership was lauded. Newspapers chronicled the engagement, highlighting Bismarck's destruction as a decisive morale victory. Royal Navy personnel were commended for operational excellence, with coordination between battleships and aircraft exemplifying integrated military planning. German intelligence intercepted some of these reports, deepening disbelief and frustration within the high command. The sinking of Bismarck also had immediate operational consequences. German naval planners recognized that reliance on singular capital ships for Atlantic dominance was flawed. Reeder recommended prioritizing U-boat campaigns, coordinated with Luftwaffe reconnaissance, over isolated battleship operations. Hitler, still frustrated, reluctantly agreed, realizing that symbolic prestige could not override operational vulnerability. As survivors from Bismarck were rescued by British forces, the human dimension of the loss became apparent. Hundreds of sailors perished, while the remaining crew were taken as prisoners of war. German High Command received reports of crew discipline during evacuation, further emphasizing the paradox of tactical defeat and personal heroism. Officers noted that, while the ship had been lost, the conduct of its crew maintained the honor of the Kriegsmarine in the eyes of both Germany and adversaries. Strategic analyses following the sinking emphasized key lessons. The necessity of integrated reconnaissance, the vulnerability of even heavily armored ships to coordinated attacks, and the importance of tactical communication. Generals and admirals documented that the British operational approach, combining intelligence, persistence, and rapid adaptation, had decisively neutralized a symbol of German naval power. Hitler, while furious, had to acknowledge the reality, shaping subsequent naval planning and strategic priorities for the remainder of the war. German High Command's psychological response was complex. Pride in the crew's bravery coexisted with profound disappointment and strategic concern. The rapid destruction of Bismarck sent shockwaves through the Navy, forcing reevaluation of doctrine, engagement rules, and reliance on singular capital ships. Diaries, telegrams, and reports reflect a mixture of admiration, disbelief, and urgency to adjust naval strategy. By June 1941, the Kriegsmarine shifted focus to U-boat campaigns in the Atlantic. Reeder emphasized coordination with other theaters, recognizing that capital ship operations alone could not achieve strategic goals. Hitler's frustration remained, yet operational necessity dictated a new approach. The lessons of Bismarck's sinking informed planning for the remainder of the war, highlighting both the limits of pride-driven operations and the efficacy of British naval strategy. The sinking of Bismarck also became a symbolic turning point. For the Allies, it demonstrated that even the most formidable German vessel could be hunted and destroyed through persistence, coordination, and strategic ingenuity. For Germany, it underscored the perils of over-reliance on individual warships, the importance of adaptive strategy, and the human cost of naval warfare. German High Command, while mourning loss, acknowledged that operational lessons were as critical as the tactical outcome. The event's historical significance extended beyond immediate military considerations. Analysts noted that the Bismarck episode reshaped perceptions of naval warfare, highlighting the effectiveness of integrated fleets, air-sea coordination, and persistent pursuit. Generals, officers, and political leadership in Germany recorded the incident as a cautionary tale. Pride and prestige could not substitute for adaptive strategy and preparation for relentless opposition.